be Friday night because I see Will Allred on my computer screen.
I see Kevin. Hey, man.
Welcome to another episode of Explain Yourself Kickstarter Roundtable. We are blessed to be joined by, we've got four creators with three different projects. But before we start, I just want to bring up one thing. I went from wine to bourbon tonight, and this is in honor of Explain Yourself veteran Brian Hawkins, who tweeted, "Yo, it's been a good day. Celebrating signing my biggest comics contract to date today. Can't give you details, but soon enough. Until then, the space in my sight." So, Brian, this is our congratulations to you, and this is why at 12:15 I'll probably be stumbling and mumbling. So, cheers.
Cheers. And I'm sure that we are entirely responsible for that because he was on the show, right?
You know what? We take credit for everybody's success after they've been on Explain Yourself. So just know that if you've got $22,000 in your campaign now and you end with $22,015, you got the Explain Yourself bomb. All right.
That's right.
So everybody, if you could just give me a 30-second elevator pitch for your campaign so that if people are coming in, they know what we're going to be talking about. Blake, do you want to start us off?
Sure. So my campaign is called Territory. It's going to be a 6-issue miniseries. The current one is for issue 1 and 2. It's a post-apocalyptic kaiju miniseries where people worship the kaiju as gods.
Nice. Andrew, let's listen about Forgotten Hymns.
Yeah, Forgotten Hymns is about a billionaire Harris who has to cover up her father's crimes, and in doing so, she discovers the deep, dark occult secrets that her family's tied to. And in the process of that, she has to make a decision. Is she going to, let the evil keep going and let her family's name live on where it is? Or is she going to bring them to justice and destroy her family's legacy?
Nice. Matt or Steph, who wants to tell us about your campaign? Because you guys are here for the same project. I'll let you guys decide.
Ready, Steph? Rock, paper, scissors. You want to do it or you want me to do it?
You go ahead.
Okay, I guess I won. I guess I got paper and she got rock over there. All right, so we are the co-creators of Misfits Clubhouse. It's all ages, family friendly, but when we say all ages, we don't mean like the Blues Clues audience. If you're flipping around and you see Toy Story or you see Wreck-It Ralph, you're going to stop and watch it for a little bit. That's what Misfits Clubhouse is. It's about 4 neighborhood kids, Mickey, Stig, Fairy, and Sloth, that hang out in the clubhouse behind Mickey's house and have all kinds of fun, imaginative adventures. And their imagination is so powerful that sometimes they can blur the lines of fantasy and reality. We have under 2 days remaining on the campaign. The issue that we have out there is going to be a massive fun issue with 2 really awesome stories. Great artist, Raheel Mohsen from India. Can't wait to talk to you guys about it a little bit later on. There's 29 seconds of a pitch for you.
Nice.
I left Steph 1 whole second.
That's a musician coming in, right? You knew exactly how to fill it. You know what? Let's not wait. You've got 2 days left, so why don't we do this as the first project we talk about? How did it? I'm going to pull it up in a second, but how did it first come into your minds to work on? Because I know that you've worked together before, but I don't know who's watching. Why don't you explain how you guys started working together, and then how the campaign got up, and I'll pick it up.
And the other members of the creative team as well.
Yeah. Sure. So, Steph, do you want to take the how we started working together, and then I'll take how Misfits Clubhouse came about?
We met in early 2018, January 2018, and Matt had a steampunk time travel series that he was working on called Allred Isildur. And at the time, it was kind of an ebook and was sort of transitioning into a little bit more comic form. When he and I met, I had a little bit of comic writing experience at that point in time, but it was mostly short comics. And shortly after, to make a long story short, because we've got lots of other people who need to tell their stories tonight too. To make a long story short, we started working together, and I jumped on board as an editorial role for Ayers at that point in time because he had already had the entire story arc created. Fast forward to now, that entire story arc is out. We have done a medieval fantasy series that is a little bit of a spinoff from Allred Isildur. It's called Tales from Nocturnia. That story arc is complete. There are trade paperbacks for both of those. There is a metal album for both of those as well. There's a metal album for Airs. Now the second album was released shortly, about a month or so ago, a couple months. The lines of reality are blurred because all we do is this. It's Tales from Nocturnia versus Airs with Steel Door. So it's both of our titles. It's 5 tracks for Airs, and it's 5 tracks for Nocturnia. So that's what we're known for. We're known for fantasy, steampunk, metal. We're not normally known for all ages titles, but we call ourselves Insymmetry Creations for a reason. The sky's the limit as far as what we want to create. There's probably not very much that we would say no to. I can think of a few things that we would not do, but
you do anything for comics, but you won't do that.
That's exactly right.
That's
Meatloaf.
right. Yes, in the words of the wise Meatloaf. But we would have Airs and Nocturnia are both what if we had to put a definition to it, we could probably say YA. There's no curse words, but it does deal with heavier subject matter, and of course, medieval fantasy is going to have a little bit of violence in it. Mm-hmm. But we would have families that would come up to our table with their kids and say, they were obviously looking for something for their kids. So it was always in the back of our mind. It would be nice to do an all ages title. And Richard Rivera, who is heads up Scout Comics all ages imprint called Scoot. Mm-hmm. He's a good friend of ours, and we just sort of became an inception over the last year or so. Where Matt and we had talked about, we had originally talked about doing a few issue story arc with an all ages series that just wasn't really vibing with us, and had the opportunity. Scoot did a new series that they're doing. It's called Frontiers, and it's like a magazine form. It's right there. Matt's showing it on the screen. It is a bunch of short comics, all ages short comics, but there's also games and puzzles and word searches and those types of things that are in there as well. So the very first issue, not issue, but the very first story, I'm really tired. First story of Misfits Clubhouse is in issue 1 of Frontiers, and that is called I Don't Want Any Asparagus.
And so I'll take it from there. So with Misfits with Misfits Clubhouse, like you said, we're known for the steampunk and the medieval and the fantasy and death metal and all. And Richard really encouraged us. He was like, you know what? I think you guys, with your personalities, and you guys are fun loving and silly, I think you would really vibe well doing something in that line. And one of the fun things about this is that with the other stories, things that we do, I mean, Steph is even like a horror movie reviewer, and we're always dealing in stuff that's got serious tones to it. We can take a lot of the silly ideas that we have, and we can just throw every one of those things we possibly can at Misfits. And like Steph said, the first story that we ever did was called I Don't Want Any Asparagus. Take the most mundane thing you can possibly think of, a kid that doesn't want to eat vegetables, and blow it completely out of proportion. Miki always wears her heart on her sleeve and just blows everything completely out of proportion. And you get to see her as a football player, like blowing through the asparagus defensive line, as a pirate who's making the asparagus walk the plank about just how much she hates asparagus. And all of her friends are trying to, hey, it's not really that bad. Would you eat asparagus? And just get to have fun with those things. We get to take the most mundane things and turn them into huge fun. Think about how Wreck-It Ralph is. You get to take some of those video games from back in the 80s, and then you get to go live inside the video games, and you really get to experience, Pac-Man and Q*bert and racing games like Mario. That's where Misfits Clubhouse is. The first issue on this Kickstarter has got 2 stories. There's Pinball Madness, which is the anchor story. The kids want to go outside into the clubhouse. There's a couple pages right there. They want to go outside into the clubhouse and they want to play, but there's a lightning storm outside. Miki's dad won't let him go outside because it is too dangerous. So he's like, hey, you know what? I have a bunch of collectibles in my garage. You think you guys want to go take a look at it? Sure. They go out there looking at baseball cards and different things like that. And he has to take a phone call, and the kids start exploring around, and they find this old pinball machine. And when we say old, we mean like 80s, 90s, when pinball machines really had their heyday, like the golden age where technology was really starting to become a part of the pinball machines. And somehow they find themselves inside the pinball machine, having to play their way out. And it's on an alien planet. So you can see one of the pages there. There's an intergalactic space worm that they're having to fend off, and there's some other things that happen on the planet, and we just gotta have a lot of fun with it because our main artist, Raheel Mohsen, for this series, he's never really played pinball before. He's from India, and it's just not really a thing there. So for us, we're like, oh, pinball machine, cool, let's go do it. And he's like, explain what this even is to me. And so we had to go back to the basics, explain to him what flippers were and the play table and the, how many balls you get and the back glass, every little thing about it. So it was fun watching him vibe on certain aspects of it, and it mattered to him. And he thought were really cool watching him with that childlike mindset, really just explode out there with what we're doing. So right there, you see there's 4 different covers. You have cover A, which is Alien Guard. You see that our 4 kids are having to run away from a little alien who is inside his pinball droid that is trying to capture them. Cover B, which is, there's actually a really cool story about cover B right now. Cover B is by a teen phenom named Seda Wolf, who runs the Soul Stream. She writes Soul Stream, which is also on Scout Comics. She wrote it when she was 13, signed her first contract at 15, and she released her first full graphic novel at 17. We did a show with her over the summer, and we really vibed with her and her family, and we thought that her art style was going to work really well for what Misfits was. The cool thing about Seda is just tonight, Seda did an interview for a news station where she's at in California, and she's actually talking about her graphic novel, and her mom said that she actually did talk about Misfits Clubhouse. Not sure if it's going to actually make the news channel out there, but she did actually mention it, which are like, that's pretty dang cool, man. There could be a chance that there could be some news coverage about Misfits Clubhouse on a station out there in California tonight. You never know.
That is a lot of bang for a buck on a variant cover artist if they might get you news coverage.
Absolutely.
I'm excited if you get 1 retweet, but wow.
Yeah.
Well, so you said basically kind of that Wreck-It Ralph, 8, like 7, 8, 9 and older, but fun for everybody. How many stories are there in this issue?
So this issue is going to be 2 stories. You have Pinball Madness ended up being a lot longer than we expected it to be. So it was almost a full issue in and of itself. But we also have Dress Up, Mess Up, which is a thematic story based on the holiday that we just had, being Halloween. But for people like Steph and myself, I mean, Kevin, you've done shows with us. Halloween is every single day of the year. We always are dressing up, always in some form of our steampunk. So it's a story that even though it's Halloween, we all can vibe with Halloween all year round. All the kids are excited to go out and go trick-or-treating, and all of them except for one. And they have to try and convince this one kid to go out there and be a part of the activities. The best part about Dress Up, Mess Up is there are a few opportunities left for people to get drawn into the issue.
Oh, nice.
And anybody that's ever seen our Draw Me Ins, we really have fun with it. We've done probably about 50 or more Draw Me Ins across the different issues that we've done. We started off, the very first issue that had Draw Me Ins was Heirs of Isildur 7. And we had, 33 Draw Me Ins in one issue, just for the fun of it. We just said, hey, you want to get drawn in, we're going to draw you in just as a test bed. Since then, it's all been incentives on the Kickstarters. But, we've had people drawn in as dragon empresses. We've had people drawn in as zombies. People drawn in as just a bunch of all kinds of crazy stuff. And this time, hey, it's Halloween. So, don't even want to tell you what we've done to some of these people, but we've had a lot of fun. We've had a lot of fun, and we know that they're going to laugh when they see the silliness of what we've done to them.
I noticed on your page that you basically have a cast for this. Your cast of characters. Is this something that is envisioned to be open-ended and just go on and on? Is it, I think you said 2 issues, or how long are you expecting this to go, or is it open-ended?
Misfits Clubhouse, we look at it like you would look at, say, Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Doo, you don't have to watch. If you watch an episode that's in season 7, you're not going to go, oh man, that episode would have been cool, but I have no idea what's going on with Scooby-Doo and these adventures and what's going on with them. I have to go watch the first 6 seasons to really know what's up. Every episode or every story is going to be self-contained. You could take them like a deck of cards and shuffle them up, and it shouldn't matter the order that you read them in. We do intend on having a very, very thin potential story arc that might run like in the very deep background, but
Right.
not something that would be like what we typically do with Heirs of Isildur or with Tales from Nocturnia, where there is this big, massive story arc that you need to understand the universe and all the depth to it. This is just, hey, here's this one story, you know, read it, enjoy it, escape from reality for a little bit. Boom, done. You can move on to the next thing.
Cool. Nice. When do you expect to deliver? Is it a possibility for Christmas? I know it's tight.
We hoped to be able to deliver it by Christmas. I don't think that that's what's going to happen. We put January of 2022 on the campaign.
Mhm.
If we have the ability to, we will, and we are definitely working our butts off to try and make that happen. But we don't want to tell people, hey, go and back it, and we'll make sure you guaranteed to have it by Christmas, because we don't want to be disappointing people in that respect. We already have ordered. We have the super sweet sticker sheet in the campaign has already been ordered, and I think those are going to be in hand tomorrow. And then
say that 3 times fast.
Yeah, exactly.
Steph has already given me all kinds of lip about the alliteration on that one, but it's part of the
brings me
fun.
great satisfaction that he stumbled over it, because I'm like, I can't say that on a live show. I'm going to say it bad every time.
But we also have the silly socks that are in there, that we've got our characters that are actually printed onto some socks, and pretty sure those are going to probably be ordered, say, tomorrow. And you know, we're trying to get all the little things in there. The line art and the inks for almost the entire issue are almost done. We've already worked all the way through Pinball Madness. Obviously, there's going to be some small things to do there. You get the coloring finished, and then Raheel is almost done now with Dress Up Mesa, but he can't get all the way through it because the campaign isn't over yet. And if somebody was to jump in at the last minute and want to get drawn in, or somebody was to back out from a draw me in, it's going to cause Steph and I to have to go back and rework the script just a little bit. But we're a good ways into the production.
Well, you know,
just dress him up like Kool-Aid Man and go, no, Joe, that was you.
Yeah.
You
I
were
was
Kool-Aid.
actually really surprised by the post office. I've been mailing out rewards for my latest Kickstarter, and I mailed like 82 packages Monday, and I've already got people, you know, that got them Wednesday and Thursday and today. So, you know, it's starting to get a lot of deliveries. So I know we're going to get a crunch because of Christmas. So you guys might not be able to make that, but so far I've been really surprised at how fast that the post office has been delivering everything. So I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
One of the things we always try to do in our campaigns as well, because like you said, Kevin, there could be people that didn't even know that Steph and I or in Symmetry Creations existed before this show. We always try to make sure that everything we've done previously, that there's a way to still get it within the campaign. Nothing that we do is going to be so off brand that people are going to go, well, I can't believe you put Heirs of Isildur in this campaign for Misfits Clubhouse, because that's, you know, they're like rated and R-rated. That's not the way we are. But all of our stuff is going to fall in this one umbrella. And so if somebody's just happening upon us and they're like, you know, oh, that's cool, you guys have trade paperbacks for your other stories, they're in the campaign. The metal CDs, we actually had somebody that's like, oh, I didn't know you guys had metal. And they picked up a Misfits Clubhouse issue and one of the CDs. I mean, we've seen some wild combinations on there. We always try to make sure if somebody's like an Uber collector and they want to get everything, we're like, yep, here's all the variant covers for Misfits Clubhouse. There we have 43 covers, I think, left in our inventory from Heirs of Isildur and Tales from Nocturnia. You know, little merchandise, things like this. Like we did laser engraved wooden stickers for Tales from Nocturnia. It's actually a piece of wood that's engraved.
I think I might have gotten one of those.
You probably did. And then we've got glow in the dark jacket patches. We do all kinds of fun stuff. And so we try to give people the opportunity, hey, just give me everything. Sure, just go pick that tier. We'll throw it all in a box and get it out there to you.
I can tell you get some. I know that your book is you know, all ages. So I'm going to say you get some cool stuff in Kickstarter rewards from you guys. Cool stuff, cool swag, and not cool the other S word that I was about to say. But we're going to go to a little bit more of an adult book, so I can say shit now. Andrew. Sorry, kids. Spoiler warning. We're going to say bad words now.
Just say earmuffs. Just say earmuffs. Say whatever you want.
It's that easy. So let's get into Forgotten Hymns. I had the pleasure of reading the first 2 issues today, and I have to say
Awesome.
there is a lot going on, and it is laid out in a way that is very understandable and very easy to follow. But there is a lot happening. So I'm going to pull up the thing. Please give us the much more deep dive into what Forgotten Hymns is.
Yeah, I guess I'll start with the beginning, like the origins of Forgotten Hymns, like where it came from. I was like 2 years ago, I was going to be a new father, and I was just kind of terrified about just bringing a child into the world and being a father myself. And so I was thinking about what my next series was going to be. I just finished wrapping up my other horror series, Man of Sin. And so I just had these ideas floating around in my head, and I really wanted to do something Lovecraftian. I wanted to do something with Lovecraft. I'm a big fan of kind of that whole mythos. And it finally dawned on me that what I was really just kind of being afraid of was kind of bringing, once I found out I was going to have a little girl, I was afraid kind of in a whole nother way. So like bringing a little girl into like a really crazy world and just not being prepared as a father. And so I took kind of all of those fears, and I immediately thought of, Lovecraft and, his monsters and how they use fear in horror. And I kind of fused those two things together, and Forgotten Hymns came out. And really what Forgotten Hymns is about this woman that you see on your screen here, Lillian Richmond, and she's trying to cover up kind of her father's crimes. Her father's kind of a big deal. He's a multi-billionaire, and she's covering up all of his crimes. And in doing so, she has to kind of go back home and kind of discover and uncover kind of what her family's all about. But she's also kind of getting chased by the FBI, and there's a lot of noir elements. It's like a crime thriller. I call it a Lovecraftian noir horror thriller. It's the best way I could describe it.
Yeah. Well, how? I mean, this is number 3. Is this planned as kind of an ongoing, or do you have an arc or an endpoint, in mind?
Yeah, so this is issue 3 of 6, so it's a mini series. So we're like right at the middle of where the series will be. So I've always wanted to do an ongoing. I've always, envy people that could do like, episode, like, not episodic, but is it episodic where it's like one done, right? Is that what it's called?
Oh, like a one shot, like just
yeah. Like I wish I wish I could do that, but for whatever reason, when I go out to tell stories, it comes out beginning, middle, and end, and it's an arc, and I want to tell a story in its entirety and then be done with it and go on to the next thing.
Okay. The art I noticed is black and white with spot color. How did that come? Was that from you? Did you speak with the art team? How did that come about?
So originally I wanted it to be in full color. And then when I found the artist, Isaac No Perez, he does really, really awesome kind of grayscale shading work. And I just thought, because of the kind of crime and noir elements of the story, I thought it really looked cool. It would really look cool for him doing it in black and white. But he also is able to do a little bit of color. And just where the blood comes in, or when we have those sigils that you see that are kind of glowing, it really makes the entire comic kind of pop and kind of glues your eyes to those. And after just seeing his work and me and him kind of talking back and forth, we kind of stumbled on that on accident.
Without spoiling anything, something happens near the end of issue 2, and you use the spot color, and it is so effective, so much more effective than it would have been in full color. And I like saying what happened would take the experience away from the reader, so I won't. But I will say that as a reader, that sequence made it all work, even though I was enjoying it up until then. And I was just like, all right, I got it. I got what they're doing. I got the thought process. I also recognized an all-star name, your letterer. You've got DC Hopkins on the book. Is that correct?
I do. Yeah, he's doing Noctera with Scott Snyder. He's doing like Green Arrow. He's doing his thing. Yeah, I actually both Isaac and DC. I was introduced by a friend of mine. His name is why is his name eluding me right now?
That is a weird name. I would. His parents. He needs to sue his parents.
You know what?
How do you spell why his name is eluding me now?
I thought the exact same joke, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to say that joke. And then you said it. I'm like, man.
I've been up for way too long. No, my buddy Alex Breen. He actually was the one who introduced me to Isaac. He was looking for an artist for something that he was doing, and Isaac kind of popped on his radar for that. And then me and Alex were talking, and I was like, oh yeah, I think I'm going to start looking for an artist. And he's like, oh, I have this guy, I think it'll be perfect. And it was Isaac. And then he had DC lettering one of his shorts that ended up being in Nightmare Theater. And I don't really know how him and DC started working together, but I was just like, hey, can you send me DC's information? Because I really like his stuff. And me and DC hit it off, and DC's been great to work with. He really has.
He is.
And Isaac's been absolutely amazing. He's a rock star too.
DC happens to be the letterer on my book, and like basically until he tells me he doesn't want to work with me anymore, he's going to be the letterer on everything I do, because he's extremely skilled. He's fast as shit. I can say that now.
I didn't know he worked on Tart. That's awesome.
Yeah. He's been our letterer since, I believe, issue 4 or 5, and then he went back through and relettered issues 1, 2, and 3 for us, so everything matched. And he's such a damn pro that when we went back and collected it with Scout, he actually relettered the stuff he did for 4 and 5 because he felt like it wasn't as good as he is now. So he completely relettered those, even that wasn't the project. It was just like, I can't have issues 1, 2, and 3 be me now, and then 4 and 5 be me, 3 years ago. So
yeah, DC's awesome. DC's awesome.
In specific, DC should be hired on your comic book. In general, make sure you hire a professional letterer, whoever that is, because you can tell when people have a letterer who knows what they're doing, and you can tell when, I took three weeks of lettering classes, and I saved myself a couple $100, so.
And ruined the book.
Awesome.
Yeah. Exactly.
And ruined the book. Exactly. And, and there's things like, Ludo's a wonderful artist, and he'll have a question for DC on why he made a choice. And then DC explains it, and Ludo goes, oh, well, now that you say that, it makes total sense. All right. So he's improving the pages, but it's great you have such a good team. Do you have an editor on the book, or?
So issue 1 and a lot of issue 2, I had David Gallagher, who edited the book. And then just our schedules and everything just didn't line up. And I just decided, me and Isaac were so far along with the rest of the series that we just kind of took the reins from there. But David was absolutely awesome to work with. And he really pushed my writing extensively, that I was able to kind of take a lot of those lessons and ideas from the first issue and our initial talkings, and kind of move it forward with the rest of the series.
Yeah, another set of eyeballs on a script and the art, as it comes in, is just, I think, so helpful to the overall flow of this, just the overall story, because as a writer, I get in my own head, and I know lots of things about the story that I assume everybody else knows, right? And no, they don't, because I haven't told them yet. So yeah, working with an editor has been great for me too. So that's awesome. And I think we have an editor here, don't we? Yes, we do. Editors rock, Steph.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, there's
you had one at the beginning, though, to help you create the entire arc, which is the most important part, to have that extra set of eyes. But if you have beta readers that can kind of at least look at it as well, you could probably live without it more than you could at the beginning.
Don't
Yeah,
you guys
he-
hate it
he
when
really-
you look at your book after it's printed and you go, how the hell did that
Make it
slip?
through.
That's like some terrible
Yes.
typo. It's like, oh my gosh.
We had one that we didn't notice the typo until like a year or so later, and we were doing something else, and we're like, "What the? How do we leave this word out there?" Where I think we were showing another artist something, and we clipped out just a panel, and I was like, "Whoa,
There
wait
it
a second!"
was.
And we had like Steph and I. I mean, Steph and I are co-writers. It's not like one of us is a writer and one is an editor now.
Mhm.
Everything we do, we co-write. But if, say, I'm in the driver's seat on a project, she is going to have the editorial hawk eye on things and vice versa. Like she does her a lot of horror movie reviews and articles for different websites, and every one that she writes, I'm the editor on, so that way she knows she can trust what I'm going to be seeing. You know, we can trust the other person, and but yeah, when little things like that slip through, it just sucks. It just sucks. You're like, why? How did Kevin Joseph not tell me when he saw this thing? Come on, Kevin Joseph.
I can't read. I mean, I do the talky talk and the righty write. I don't do the ready read. Come on.
Yeah, there's a big part in issue 1 where they're Kevin, you'll remember this, where they're in the apartment. It's kind of how it opens, and Lillian's talking to the young girl and she's kind of they're on the couch or whatever, and we're having this long conversation. Not a long conversation, but it's a page or two, and the dialogue was completely different when I originally wrote it. And David was like, I see what you're doing here, but you need to push it farther. And I sent one revision in, and he's like, further and further and further. And where you get it now, it's like, it's really pretty aggressive what Lillian's doing. And that's what I was going for. And for whatever reason, I just couldn't get there the first one or two times. Even it was like, I was muzzling myself. Like I wasn't letting the character really speak. And that's what if I could distill like our entire kind of relationship, our working relationship down to a single moment, it's that scene where he saw what I was doing and he forced me to take it to its extreme.
That's awesome.
For the good of the scene. And I'm powerful now because of that.
I'm gonna try to put up the thing. So I'm gonna grab that. I think I was doing this and I forgot. I'm not really good at this, guys. I try. There we go. There we go. So if anybody needs to check out Forgotten Hymns 1 through 3, there is a catch-up tier to get all 3 issues? I'm guessing.
Yeah, there's a catch-up. Yeah, there's a catch-up tier. You can get all 3 issues. You can get it digitally. You could also get my other series, Man of Sin, that could be bundled in as well. At the digital deluxe, you'll get it's only for $10. You'll get all 3 issues. You'd get the graphic novel for Man of Sin. You'll even get my 8-page story that was in Nightmare Theater season 1 last year, and you'll also get a 6-page preview of my next sci-fi series that I'm doing with Nathan Luth that'll be coming out sometime next year, who does Impure Blood. So you'll get a big bundle for just $10 digitally, and then all of that you can get physically as well.
Nice.
And Andrew, I think I remember reading on your newsletter that you're going to be bringing back something that you were doing earlier this year, right? Your podcast.
I had a podcast. Will was one of my guests, and I really enjoyed it. I was doing it all last year, and then I had my second child. I had my son in June, and I put it on indefinite suspension, and he's going to be 5 months now, so it's about 5 months I haven't done it, and I kind of want to get back to it. I miss just talking to other creators and picking people's brains and learning from people, and it was a lot of fun. I miss it, but I don't have a ton of time. So he's getting a little bit older, so there's a little bit of time. My wife allows me.
The sleep's getting to the 4 and 5 hour range as opposed to the 2 hour range.
Yeah, it's 4 or 5 is generous. I'm like 3 now.
Yeah.
All right, no, you're not there yet, but it's coming.
Yeah.
I do remember my wife and I looking over one night and looking at the clock, and we realized we had slept for 5 hours straight. And it was the first time in 6 months, 8 months, whatever whatever it was, and we were just like, you know, like in the movies, the angels, you know, sing hallelujah. And I think I heard it. I'm not sure, but it was just this glorious feeling.
Then
And
there's
we
that
didn't-
brief moment of panic where you think, now I got to go check on them, make sure they're okay because they haven't woken up in 5 hours.
Well, in this case, she did cry at 5 hours and woke us up, and we did the math. It wasn't that.
Yeah.
It wasn't we've been asleep for 5 hours and she's still asleep. She
Yeah.
did. So we lucked out and didn't have that moment of, you know, abject fear and terror.
Yeah.
Which if you're watching this and you haven't had a child, that is.
That's-
I don't know. I've only had one. I assume it definitely is the first one. I don't know if the fear stays with you as you
Oh,
are
it
doing
does.
it a second time.
Absolutely.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I still check to see if the boys are breathing. You know, I'm like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. How old are they?
they're 26.
Yeah.
You
See,
still-
and
yeah,
you
okay,
had
he's
two.
still doing
You
well.
had
Yeah.
two. Like you had you know, twice the chance of, you know.
Yeah, the twins. We're the Stace known as the twins' mom. So, you know, and I'm the twins' dad, I guess. So yeah,
You're the husband of the twins' mom.
yeah, exactly.
Kids are like, Dad, what are you doing? Get out of my face. I'm trying to sleep.
Yeah, just making sure you're breathing, son. Just making sure you're breathing.
My wife is right there. Get out of here.
Yeah. She's breathing too. That's okay.
Well, let's get to Blake and let's talk about territory before it gets too late. I want to make sure that we get into all of the books, and then we're going to get to talking about whatever the heck can come up. Blake, I'm going to pull up the screen while you kind of get us in a deeper dive on what territory is. I know you said the magic word kaiju, which is always a plus. We had Monster Matador on. Was it last week, Will?
I was
Yeah, I
I
think
was
it
just gonna
was.
say I was thinking of Monster Matador.
Yeah.
Nice.
So it's a beautiful time for kaiju comics while I pull that up.
It is, and I'm actually, I'm a fan of Monster Matador, and like you said, just Kickstarter in general. There's a couple cool kaiju projects going on. But yeah, so basically, Territory. It's my first comic. I'm the writer. The artist is Chris Sassman. He's based out of South Africa, and he's been awesome. He's fairly new to doing this as well, but you wouldn't guess it when you see his work. It's really professional and really pretty mind blowing for him just doing this a couple years.
Did he do your logo? Who did this logo? That's gorgeous.
Yep, he made the logo too.
Wow.
That's incredible.
Yeah. He's like I said, he's awesome. This is his first kind of big project as well. He's done some stuff on the side, but it's been cool because we've kind of been going through a lot of it, you know, as first timers together, and he's been great to work with. He's an awesome artist because he's constantly asking questions. He wants to understand the character's motivations, you know, what's going on in the story. He's not just drawing what I'm writing in the script. He wants to really see what's going on and you know, put his spin on it. And he's got a great visual storytelling, I think, and it really comes through. And then the colorist is Ichsan Ansori, who's based out of Indonesia. And he and Chris actually knew each other and had worked a little bit together before. And
That's nice.
so
So
that
they have
was
tradition together.
Yeah, which was really awesome because I had no idea what to look for as far as like a good colorist. And Ichsan's been great, and he and Chris work really well together. And then he's also another one that's just super easy to work with, you know, has good ideas, takes feedback really well, gives feedback. And then going back to what you were saying about letterers earlier, Marco Della Verde is kind of the veteran on the team. He's been lettering since the 90s. He's worked for everybody, Marvel, DC, Image, etc. And so it's nice because not only is he a great letterer, he's got a great design sense, really brings pages to life, but he also has been kind of the professional for all us newbies to help us out.
Nice.
And then starting with the second book, the editor is Nicole DeAndrea. And my one regret is that I didn't hire her for the first book. The first one didn't have an editor. And just watching what she did with the script on the second one, I really, really wish I'd hired her for the first. But she'll definitely be on board for the rest of them.
Yeah. Nicole is a veteran of Explain Yourself. She was on for her campaign. So great Great person. You know what? It's better to have her on late than not at all. So good call.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I'm glad I got her when I did. Like I said, I wish it was earlier, but she'll definitely be here. As long as she wants to be, as long as I can keep bringing her back. But yeah, so basically the story is it's this post-apocalyptic world sometime in the distant future. It takes place in the Pacific Northwest here in the U.S. And sometime way after some sort of nuclear kind of apocalyptic event that wiped out all of civilization and most of humanity. Now people are surviving in kind of this tribal lifestyle. And then this apocalyptic event also spawned these giant kaiju. They're called behemoths in the story. And the tribes worship the different kaiju. And kind of each tribe worships a kaiju. Each one kind of has a religion related to the different kaiju. And so it's fun because it's a kaiju book. There's big monsters, there's big monster action. But then the other inspiration was just kind of some of my own musings on religion, and there's some religious philosophy. The main character, her name's Alkia, and she's a teenager just kind of on the edge of becoming an adult. So she has her beliefs, but she's still figuring them out. And she's still very influenced by the people around her, especially her family and close friends. And so it's just kind of exploring how, beliefs can be influenced by certain people, how that can be manipulated, how our beliefs change when they're challenged and when circumstances change, and, how our relationship with family and friends and all that as it relates to belief. So.
Nice. I see this territory versus sacrifice. Sacrifice was, we talked about that a couple weeks back. Is this a crossover print, or how did this come about?
It is. And actually that's how I found out about you, is I saw Lawrence interview on here, and Lawrence is really cool. So I actually, the first sacrifice campaign, he reached out to me. So Ichsan is the colorist for both of our books. Oh, nice. And so he reached out to me when Territory was live, because he was just about to go live with Sacrifice. And he was like, hey, Ichsan's working on mine too. Can I just kind of get a shout out? And, I'll shout you out. And I was like, yeah, definitely. And Sacrifice is an awesome book. Definitely recommend you check it out. It's live right now as well, but it's kind of a horror, comedy, action, Hellboy, Evil Dead mashup. It's got a lot of cool stuff going on. But so we kind of talked on our first campaigns, and then he actually reached out for this one. I was like, yeah, that's awesome. Like, sounds like a really cool idea. I think there's, a lot of crossover as far as audience and some of the themes and stuff like that. And we got Allred Rassicot, I think is how you say her last name, to do the illustration for it, which was awesome because she's a great artist. And then Ichsan did the colors. So yeah, it was just kind of a fun way. If you back both campaigns at any physical level, we'll include a print.
That's always fun. Will and I did one between Tart and Crossover, and it was a terrible idea because now we've written like a 28-page one-shot with both of our characters.
Yeah.
Literally, because Kyle Roberts drew it so cool, we wanted to explore it. So there is danger with crossover prints. Be careful.
Oh, we've already, like, once we saw the first, the print, once we saw the art, we were already talking about kind of some other ideas and stuff like, yeah, this works. We could make this work even better. We could see where this goes. So I see what you're talking about, the danger, but there's a lot of fun stuff to play with.
It is fun. Charlie Stickney says, Nicole is amazing. We know that, Charlie. You are preaching to the choir on that one. She's great.
Yeah, she's, like I said, I just wish I'd had her for the first one, because it just, in reading the first script now, looking back and reading the second one after she's edited it, and she also, she looked through the layouts. I mean, she did such a complete job, and just the amount she cleaned it up, it's the story I was trying to tell, just better. Like, she just made everything better, and it's amazing how well, like how big a difference an editor can make. So Steph, props to you guys, everyone who does the editing, because the difference you guys have on a story is insane.
I feel like
that's one of the things
sorry, go ahead.
That's one of the things that I can't remember where it was a week or two ago. I'm typically so happy that someone actually drew something that it was in my script. I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, it's insane.
It's the best feeling.
He's not even critical about it. Just
so there's no there's no critical eye going toward it at that point. So having an editor, go, calm down, Will.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
take it over and look
Yeah.
at it.
She
Especially
looks
as a
really
newer-
pretty, but she's on the left and she's speaking second. So
Exactly.
let's
Something's
talk to
wrong
the
there.
artist about this.
Yeah, and especially being, this is the first project, like so much of those little details I have no idea about. So having someone like her that is able to point out all these things and clean all that up, like, it's stuff that like you wouldn't know if looking at the final product that somebody's fixed it all, but it just works.
Okay, so that brings up a question I haven't asked anyone yet. I'm going to ask you first, Blake, and then everybody. So you said this is your first project. What brought you to comics? Why comics now? And what is your kind of writing history before comics? It's a big question. I know.
Yeah, no, it's good though. So I grew up reading comics with my dad and brother, especially. It was mostly Marvel stuff, and so they were big throughout my childhood. One of probably the main forms of media I really kind of interacted with. And then I kind of fell off it in my late teens, early 20s. But then actually my first son was born kind of midway through my 20s. And as he started to get a little bit older, he kind of started getting into superheroes and stuff. So that got me back into comics. Mm-hmm. And I'd always kind of wanted to write. I've never done anything. This is my first real creative project in any way.
Really?
I kind of
Nice.
picked it. Yeah, I tried doing a little screenwriting as like a hobby in college, but never finished anything, never really took it anywhere. And once I kind of fell back in love with comics, it just kind of all came together. Like, this is the medium that feels the most natural to me, that I know the most about, that I'm the most comfortable with. And so this was a story that I'd kind of had in my head for a couple of years. So I just decided to jump in, and it took a couple of years of just writing, various scripts, just get ideas, until I finally started in on Territory, which was kind of the story I really wanted to tell. But then, it's been a huge learning experience, but it's been a lot of fun. Still have a lot to learn, but having people like Nicole and Marco and some of the veterans, and also collaborating with people like Chris, has really helped, grow a lot in just a short time.
Well, I think you've got the business aspect down, because a kaiju comic cost a few $1,000s to make, and a kaiju low budget movie costs $45 million. So I think you were very smart on the format for this story. Yes. So good call. We're going to go around the horn. We'll come back to Territory, but Andrew, what got you into writing comics specifically, and what type of creative work had you done before comics?
Yeah, I actually my bachelor's is in creative writing with a concentration of screenplays, and nice. I originally went into that because you couldn't major in comics, and so I needed to figure in something that I would want to do eventually. I felt like when I kind of got into college that I wanted to work in the visual medium, and I really wanted to work in comics and write comics, because I was a big fan growing up. And so right out of college, I actually signed with a literary management company for screenplays. And so I developed stuff for about like 2 to 3 years with them. And I found out right away, I didn't want to work in Hollywood. I didn't want to work in that, because I could write a script that I spent 3 months working on, and no one will ever read it ever. Even if it's bought, say someone optioned it for 10 grand, no one's going to read it. And that meant someone reading my work, or my work getting out into the world, was more important to me than the however many thousands of dollars it was to be an option.
Yeah, if we're talking millions, they can put it in a drawer. I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
10,000. Sure. I want. I mean.
I'll preface this. I never got 10,000. So like, I would be okay with that, but I never got anything like that, even close to 1,000. So there's that. Yeah. Right. So I just started, just from there decided I wanted to get into comics and go kind of full bore into comics, and kind of, shifted and started doing the comic book thing. So that's kind of how it all kind of came about. My first, right away, I got published in Greyhaven Comics anthology. This was back in 2013, maybe.
I think unfortunately he's passed away, but Sean, God, his Twitter handle was Potato Waste. Sean, you know, he had the same name as your friend. I don't know why his name is eluding me.
Sean.
Yeah, Sean, and he had done some color work for a Greyhaven book back in 2014 or 2015, and so they did some good work. You know, I don't think there's. I haven't seen the logo around, so I don't know if they are around or.
I have no idea. I thought what was really great about Greyhaven, this was like before like the crowdfunding thing took off. But they had like open submissions and you could pitch them something. So it was my first time kind of pitching comics, first time writing a comic script, which was much different than like, you know, a screenplay or anything like that. They paired you up with an artist and an editor. And like I got to kind of experience the whole thing, which was great. And they sold the books on their store and at conventions and everything. So it was a really nice introductory kind of learning experience, like I didn't even know how to format a script the right way. I didn't really understand like pacing. I had like way too much dialogue because I came from like the screenplay thing with not enough panel. Like I was just all messed up, and learning how my panel descriptions, how they would come across to an artist. Like it was just a perfect learning environment. And I wish there was another opportunity like that for new writers and artists, right? Like, hey, pitch this thing and we'll start pairing people up. Like, I think there's that should be a thing. I wish it was, because it really helped me and kind of jump started my ability to kind of get into writing and feel comfortable writing. And then from there, I went and started writing my first horror series, Man of Sin. And that was like a huge kind of roller coaster in itself. It was like picked up by publishers like 2 or 3 times. It wasn't picked up. It got dropped. It got released. It didn't. I went to Kickstarter twice. It was like 5 years of like just a roller coaster. And then after I was done with Man of Sin, I just decided I'm just gonna go Kickstarter, do everything on my own. I'm tired of working with on everyone else's time. And so I didn't even pitch Forgotten Hymns, other than to Isaac.
We're gonna circle back to that, Matt. What is, I know the music, but what were your creative endeavors before comics, and why comics now?
Well, yeah. So I even in high school, I was a metal musician, and I always was somebody that wrote a lot of music, a lot of lyrics, a lot of poetry. Is just something that I did, and that my creative was. I took about 7 years off from music. Like I was in a band that was right on the cusp of actually doing some big things, but the industry was changing. So every time we were talking to like a big label, they would get bought out by somebody else, or they'd merge somebody else. We'd lose our contacts. And one of the guys in the band had an opportunity to go back and rejoin a very large, very popular band that he was an original member of. And that's where he's at now. Actually, his name is Sean Tibbetts. He's the bass player of the band Camelot. That's the biggest power band in the world. And so now, whenever COVID's not happening, he's playing in front of 100,000 people at festivals every time he gets a chance. But I just was burnt out, and I wanted to get back in to writing. When I decided to get back in, I was like, I wanted to play music, but I wanted there to be more of a backstory. And I had already done some things in my previous band where there were some storylines through some of the songs, and I wanted there to be more. And a couple songs turned into a little backstory, a few more songs into a full story, which begat a full album that turned into an ebook. Then it was working with an artist that transitioned from an ebook to an illustrated novel. And then I was like, yeah, look at this. I've got me a comic. I'm going to release some comic issues, and got to number 2 in the series. And that's when Steph and I met. And like she said earlier, she comic, understood the basics of what comics actually was. Didn't mean I didn't have experience reading comics, because I did, but you know, how to make it actually be a comic. Like she was like, very nicely was just like, hey, if you want this to be a comic, there are some things that you're going to need to do. And it took me literally to like issue 6. I'm like, hey, guess what? I used a word bubble. She's like, good boy, good job. You know, very nice about it. But then, you know, there was that point that once I went over the bridge, so to speak, and finally everything clicked when we did the trade paperback for Heirs. I mean, it's still a pretty wordy, lengthy, you know, text heavy book. And Andrew, I can totally vibe with you when you were talking about that. But we went back and relettered the whole thing. So it's definitely now in the most comic type form that story could be told in. Subsequent Heirs stories, which is Nightmare Scenario, which we released with our previous Kickstarter, and The Perilous Prospects, which is what's going to be our next Kickstarter, which is first episode of that's going to be in January or February 2022. Absolutely full comic. We're totally vibed. Now we've had a few years under our belt, and we don't have to worry about, you know, is this actually a comic or not? Because I can definitely say I feel like a comic writer now, but thanks to Steph's.
That's nice. Someday I'm going to feel that way, and I'm going to give you a high five. Or Steph, what brought you to comics?
I wanted to be a writer since I was a kid. I mean, honestly, since 10, when the local paper was having like a short story contest at Halloween, and I entered it, and I was up against adults and everything, and I ended up winning. And from there on, that's what I wanted to be. Wanted to be a writer. I was in journalism in high school. So I wanted to be a journalist at first. And so that's kind of cool now that I'm able to do columns and movie reviews as well, you know, on the side. And it kind of fulfilled that little dream that I had as a teenager. But, you know, I was busy raising my kids for a while. And once they started being in school and I had time during the day, I thought, you know what, I really want to pursue this writing thing that I said I was always going to do. I don't want to be one of those people that says, oh, I always wanted to, and I never did. And so I realized at one point in time, some of the stories that I had been kind of culminating in my head, that I had been picturing them in comic form. I was getting more into comics. I got into comics a little bit later in life, like late teens, early 20s. And, you know, I read The Watchmen, and I mean, from there, it was kind of like, oh, you know, you can do a graphic novel. And this is exactly what I've been picturing my story. It wasn't anything like it had nothing similar in plot, but just the format. So I spent like 6 months learning how to write a comic script. Andrew, like you were saying, it's tough. Like you think that it's easy to do, and it's not, because, you know, like you were mentioning, you have to have the right pacing. You need to know about page turns and keeping your reader engaged so that they want to actually turn the page, and you're not going to have a panel of just word balloons everywhere because it's too wordy. So I spent a whole bunch of time learning how to write comic scripts, and there was an online competition in I guess it would have actually been 2017, called Ghost City Comics Competition. And they had a category for one-page comic. And I thought, that sounds pretty challenging and fun. I'm going to do that because, and at the time, to be honest, it was because, hey, you know, it's cheap. You only have to pay for one page of art.
Yeah.
So I submitted one, and I got finalist on that one. And the artwork for that is actually how Matt and I met, because we commented on a mutual friend's post on Facebook, and I had the art up on like my cover page, or, you know, my cover pic on Facebook. But yeah, so that was sort of how I got my start. My first love was movies. I will always love movies. And so it's kind of nice to do the journalistic side and the movie side. You know, at one point in time, I thought I wanted to be a director and you know, do screenplays. But Matt and I call ourselves In Symmetry Creations. You never know. One day we might be able to do that too. The sky's the limit when it comes to that type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, we just had to upgrade our phones. We've got Apple TV, and we're watching Mythic Quest, the Rob McElhenney show. Okay. I mean, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, he was an out-of-work actor, and now he's a friggin' auteur. Yeah. So you never know where you're going to be in 7 years, 10 years, 15 years if things go the right way. So you can definitely be a comic writer and a director. It definitely is not. It ain't over.
Yeah, we don't want to limit ourselves. And that's why we like to say that we're content creators, because we love comics. Obviously, we wouldn't be here if we didn't. We love creating comics. But that doesn't mean we don't want to take some of our ideas and our own IPs and see what they could be like on screen or on a streaming, you know, or as a tabletop game or anything. Anything is we haven't really rolled out anything. And so it's just sort of, you know, climbing that ladder and getting to the point where you have the resources and the ability to do that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
Absolutely.
Now, Blake, we cut you off because you brought it up, and I was like, "Oh crap! This is a question Will and I probably need to remember and ask more often." Territory. How long do you foresee this going in your mind?
So it's gonna be a 6-issue miniseries. Kind of like
You just
Andrew
said that because
said.
Andrew said it. You know, like
Yeah, it
was
sounded
going to be
cool.
5.
So
Like 6
I'm
sounds
just
better.
yeah. We can kick another one out. It's fine.
Art's
No,
cheap.
actually,
Art's cheap.
yeah. The whole process very inexpensive and stress free. So, but no, like Andrew said, like one shots to me, I appreciate people that can do them, but I've tried and it's hard. Same thing. Like I like to build the story out, and I like to have the definitive ending too. And especially as a first project, like I didn't want to, go like, oh, I'm gonna create some crazy ongoing that I see going for 40 issues or whatever when I hadn't literally done one before. So 6 seemed like
me, Blake. You're smarter than me.
6 seemed like a somewhat reasonable goal. And it, this is a story that I've had in mind for at least 3 years. And by the time I went to write it, I had a pretty good idea of what I wanted to happen and how I wanted it to end. And so with the 6 issues, I was able to tell the whole story I want, wrap it up how I wanted to. And so I see it going 6 issues, and then, hopefully by then I'll been able to tell this story and have enough experience to kind of look at, if I want to do something new, maybe, learning from this and taking it new directions or something.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that is cool. Yeah, the people that serialize comics on Kickstarter are a very rare breed.
Idiots.
I mean, if you can do it, like,
yeah, I'm an idiot.
props.
You're
I
right,
just
Kevin.
my brain hits that like ending point, and I'm like, cool, and I can't just keep going with stuff. So
here's what I'll say: Will and I are kind of doing very long form with an end in sight. That is dumber than doing a 6-issue miniseries, which is dumber than doing a 4, which is dumber than doing a 1-shot, which is dumber than doing a 5-page short, which is dumber than doing the 1-page short that Steph did.
You know what? Just do a Charlie Brown 3-panel comic, and
yeah,
there you go.
Yeah.
That's all you
I mean,
need
it
to
worked out pretty well for Schultz. He
Yeah.
did all right.
He did okay. A guy who got to go in the Louvre has something. But no, like I think that I know when I got into this, I was like, well, Sandman's my favorite comic, so I've got to prove to them, whoever them was. I didn't know who them was, but I had to prove to them that I could come up with a series that long. And I just was ignorant. I didn't know how much stress and effort and money and et cetera it is. So Will and I harp on this. The more brief and contained your story can be as you start, the better. So it was very smart of you to keep it contained. So my hat's off to you for making that choice, to be honest, because you could do a 70-issue thing later. You got the stuff in your back pocket. That's fine, but
I mean,
you're
that's
starting out, start small.
Exactly. And that's the thing too, is we're starting like something like this too. It's like, if I can prove to myself I can do 6 issues, then maybe the next one's 12 or, the next one's 10 or whatever. But that way I'm not, I don't lose myself in just trying to accomplish, something that I have no idea how to do.
Yeah,
Charlie just said in the comments. I was just gonna say, I feel like 4 to 6 is the sweet spot for most comics. I say that as somebody who's involved in an 11-issue story arc. So obviously, it can work when it's longer or shorter than that. We did a 3-issue one as well, but I feel like typically 4 to 6 is like your sweet spot.
Yeah, and you can set up a world that you'd like to come back to.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you can tell a 4 to 5 issue with a beginning, middle, and end that is defined, and you can come back to that world. It doesn't even have to be those characters. You can kill off every character if you want to, and you can still come back to that world for another 4 to 5 issue anytime you want. And it's just, I just say this because it's possible people are going to be watching this who a year from now are thinking, man, that's that story that I can't get out of my head. Maybe I can do it. Do it. Do
Yeah.
your story. But
Always do it.
certainly the bite-sized pieces that you can finish are what you're going to learn from and what you're going to get better from.
Yeah.
Unbelievably large stories that you can't quite finish. You don't learn anything from, and that's why I'm just small and steady, and just do the work. And yeah, 6 issues is huge amount of labor, but it's smarter than 42 issues because I'm no.
You run the risk of jumping the shark at some point when you drag a series on. I mean, we all know there's TV shows that are out there that have gone on about 4 or 5 seasons too long.
Walking Dead.
Yeah, I wasn't going to name any names, but
well, one of the things that Comics Experience, which I think is run by Andy Schmidt, they've got kind of those introductory classes on, hey, here's an introductory writing class, here's an introductory penciling class, inking class, coloring, and those I think are really kind of helpful because I think he starts with here's a 5-page story. You're gonna tell a story, 5 pages, and we're gonna do a script, and here you go. You're gonna finish that script. And then the great thing about I think Comics Experience is that there's that community around it. So you have inkers, you have artists, you have pencilers, you have the colorists, you have the letterers, you have that community around it, so that you can actually, not only write a 5-page script, but then get it drawn on, get it colored, get it lettered, and all those things, which is really kind of cool. Kind of what Andrew was talking about. I think what Greyhaven Books was doing is kind of giving the people that introduction to the to the comics industry, basically, and saying this is kind of sort of how we do things, I guess. So it's pretty handy.
His name was Sean Fagan, by the way. It came to me, Sean Fagan. So rest in peace, buddy.
I going from the 3-page short, which was incredibly difficult. Like, I was used to doing these big 90-page 90-page screenplays,
right?
And trying to tell a complete story in 3 pages was it was more difficult than anything I've ever done before. Trying to develop characters and paint. If there's any advice that anyone takes from all this, just start really, really small, because it's harder than the other stuff. You're gonna hone your craft much better with something shorter than if you have even a 1-page one-shot or a 4 or 5 issue miniseries, because you have to learn the economics of a panel and then learn the economics of a page. So you have to really dial in on those skills. And I was really lucky and thankful to be a part of that and learn that kind of right out of the gate in my comics career. And then just like what Kevin said, my next series, Man of Sin, was just a 4-issue miniseries. There's only 4 issues. And I learned so much just by doing that and releasing that. But at the end of it, there's a universe, there's a door open that if I ever want to come back to it, all of the characters could go away and I could tell a story in this universe if I wanted to. Almost like a true detective-esque, if you will. The everyone's gone, but this is still kind of the thing. And I think that's probably the best thing you could do for yourself if you want to stay in that universe and keep going, but also give yourself something manageable to actually work with. Yeah,
not a 20-issue series.
I feel like everybody should try their hand at a 1 to 5 pager. It's challenging but fun. And I say this, one of the biggest things I always say is don't start off trying to write your magnum opus, because it's just, I say that as somebody who wrote a graphic novel script that was 104 pages right around the time that I was doing all the other stuff. But it is an unpublished and unfinished comic, that graphic novel. The other things, the smaller page, I had a 2-pager that was that got picked up by a publisher and put in one of their anthologies. And so I think everybody should
Which
start small.
which
like
one?
that.
Let's give them a shout out.
Yeah.
It was years ago. It came out on a Wednesday. So
Oh, okay. I think
yeah.
I've heard of that.
I've heard about that one. Yeah.
yeah. That was like my first little thing.
Well, one
Cool.
of the neat things too about with Steph and I, working together was talk about coming from two opposite ends of the spectrum, where you've got a lyric writer and somebody who's writing large, long prose stories, somebody who understands the construction of, hey, if you want to have this big arc, you need to make sure you've got all these points, and if you want to have reveals, you got to make sure that you're having little breadcrumbs all the way through so you get these big reveals. And stuff's like, hey, I'm the queen of the one-page comic. She'll never say that, but I said
I was
that.
going to say I've never said those.
Other
stories.
people said that. That was what her unofficial nickname was back in the day, because she had a bunch of 1 to 8 page stories that were in a whole bunch of different anthologies. And it was a really big clashing of the worlds that really needed to clash, because I needed to be able to see that you could tell a coherent story, a coherent thought in 1 to 8 pages. You didn't need to have these big, overarching, massive, epic stories. And she needed some of the things that I had, to be able to expand out on these things and see how to did the project manage the giant long scripts. So we kind of met in the middle with a lot of things. Tales from Nocturnia, like she said, was 3 issues, plus a few anthology pieces. The new Heirs of Isildur stuff is probably going to be a 3-issue arc as well. So it's been interesting, and with Misfits Clubhouse, every one of the stories is self-contained. So it's like, hey, you need to tell the entire story with the entire arc right here. And if you're going to have any small little reveals, it's got to be very small. You can't throw so many Easter eggs in there that they're all going to be lost and nobody's ever going to care, because they're not going to go to some story 4 issues away and care about what's in this Easter egg, because it's not part of the same story. It's, they're all self-contained. So It's been neat with the two of us pulling all those things together.
There we go.
No.
So that's accurate.
Not self-proclaimed. I have never proclaimed that myself.
I think it's official now.
Don't start rumors. People are
It's totally official now. Do any of you do like word counts, on a per page? I'm one of the crazy. I will count words to make sure that I'm not going to, crowd a panel too much or crowd a page too much. And it's just one of those weird things I picked up.
I do that with my reviews.
Are you
and my
talking about
mostly because I have to?
Will, are you talking about word balloon or total page, like total word?
Yeah, word balloon or captions. Whatever text is going to appear on the page. Yeah, I was reading an interview with Alan Moore, and he goes, "I counted words. Here's the total words per page." Blah. I went, "That's really smart." Now I do it, and I of course not Alan Moore, but I still do it. Okay.
I try to keep my
We have our mantra. Our mantra is when we edit each other's stuff, we always just feel like all we're doing is just cutting out words, because just cutting out phrases. So I don't think we're ever counting words. We are just making sure that if something is on the page, it needs to be there. And if there's a way to say it in a shorter way than what's there, we are probably going to find a way to condense it down, just so that way the word isn't the page isn't unnecessarily crowded with words, or we can bring it down. I think that's basically how we operate. Don't you think, Steph?
Oh yeah.
I like to look at the art and see if it's illustrated on the page. I like to take the words off of the page, and oftentimes, because Ludo's really extraordinarily talented, I've been able to take entire narration boxes out of the panel because they're so unnecessary once he's drawn the panel. I clip that way. And sometimes you get the art back and you're like, oh, that's going to be crowded. I better figure out a way to take those 28 words and figure out how to say it in like 17. I don't do it very intellectually. I do it kind of a feel on the page. But I think it's great if somebody has the logic power in their brain to do it logically. But I'm kind of like, that feels wrong. I'm going to have to figure out, within the voice of the character.
I try to keep mine every word balloon 25 or less.
Yeah.
And then
I think that was Alan's 25, right? I think so.
I-
So you're right there. You're right there with the king. Now,
Yeah.
not the
I think
queen of the one page, but the
Exactly.
king.
Yeah. Wait, did
that
the
was
king and the queen agree? Is that?
I want to say that was brought to my attention with the Gravehaven thing because I was so wordy.
Okay.
So that
Were you a Chris Claremont reader
I
growing
was.
up?
No, I don't think so. Like I don't
Okay.
I don't remember.
I
was more of
reread
like
some
a
X-Men. I'm like, wow, he really wrote a lot. You know,
Yeah.
it was great, but you're like,
Oh, yeah.
it's gravitated away from that. So that's why when I think of wordy comics, I think of Chris Claremont, and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Chris Claremont. So it's not an insult
Not a
at all.
dig. Yeah.
and I say the 25 word balloon thing, but I also say like many of my balloons are way wordier. So when I get the if I know this is going to be a very wordy or dialogue heavy scene, I make sure my panels fit that. So I have big, like less panels per page that could fit that. And like I kind of do the internal math, and it's more of a feel. Like, okay, this has to happen here, so on and so forth. So basically my own internal thought process is this is going to have more than that, or I'm going to break that rule. I have to have less panels, and I have to have a justification for that. So it's
like
kind
that.
of more
You're
of like a balancing act.
Yeah, you're doing the math. You're giving your artist more room too.
Yeah.
Fewer panels means there's more room for the dialogue. So you're working around the rule. You know the rules, so you can break it. So that's smart.
I think I'm going to try to remember that rule, but I'm going to, so in order to remember, I'm going to sing it to the tune of 95 Luft balloons, but it's going to be 95 word balloons. That's how I'm going to remember it in my head now. Next time we go and write.
Is that going to become your new jam? She's going to be like,
yep.
So,
Gotta learn it in German though.
Another stupid question. And I don't know if this is just me, but I don't have balloons that have more than one sentence in them, and I don't know where I picked that up. That's a complete thought. It should go in its own balloon. I don't know if that's something that I learned from somebody or just something that came out of my fevered brain. But I'm betting I learned it from somebody, and I just don't know where. Is that something that you guys ever think you
think you should own it. I think you should say you invented it.
Yeah, you created it.
I'm the king of the single sentence balloon. Okay, there we go.
There you go.
Hey, we are graced with royalty on this.
That's right.
Yeah. A lot of important people here.
Kevin is the prince of the badass covers.
I am the Duke of lucking out and meeting Ludovic Saleh is what I am.
Yes, the Duke. I love it.
All I know is the first time I ever tabled a show next to Kevin, I went and he had all this stuff set up. I didn't know who Kevin was. He was right there, and I was like, damn. I'm like, this dude has got some serious covers. I'm like, I don't care what his books are about. I want every single one of the things on this table because every cover he had the die cut shark bit covers and the covers.
Oh, I love that one.
I was like, man, this dude knows what's up. I have to up my game.
I like to play.
Oh, it's awesome.
Don't tell Kevin, but he's kind of my idol. So
Kevin, just
you can do so much better. Look around the screen.
I know.
But no,
I don't know.
Go, please go ahead.
I definitely do a lot more than just one sentence per balloon, but I definitely keep it within the same thought. So like if there's like a panel where there's like 3-word balloons, like it's like the guy breaks the word balloons up. Those it might all be one idea, but in that idea, those are 3 separate thoughts, like beginning, middle, and end of the thought. And then in those are 25 each, but I have to also do the math like internally or like visually, like, all right, so that's gonna take up a lot of space as well. So it needs to be a bigger panel. Like I can't do a 9-panel grid here. Right. Like, so all those things you're kind of juggling with the economics kind of the page. But I do try to keep each word, each idea or each thought or part of the idea in its own balloon.
I think that makes sense. And I try to A lot of times what I'll do is I write the script, then Ludo does the art, and then I do quote unquote what I call the letter script.
Mhm.
So the script that I send to DC, I erase all of the art, direction, and just put either the narration or the dialogue. And if it seems to be wordy, a lot of times I'll say, I have this as one balloon. If you need to break it into two, go for it. Because I know that DC knows so much more about how to place things on a page than I do, that I kind of leave it up to him to make some of these choices so that, the smarter person makes the choice. It's his skill. It's not my skill. So
Totally.
I don't make the choice like Will, but I do kind of like, all right, this feels wordy. Is this good? And then I can blame him when it's, I wrote it and I wrote a terrible word balloon. I'm like, well, DC should have broke that up into two. That's
Andrew brought up something that is, I don't think I've ever actually done, and that's a 9-panel grid page.
What?
Have any of you ever done a 9-panel grid page?
They're the best.
No.
We actually have some pages that have got 14 panels on it, not because we intended on it ever being that way, but because our artist for Misfits actually broke up a couple panels that way, and we're like 14 panels, that is sheer lunacy. And then he sent it to us, and the way he did it, some of them were just very, very small, kind of like bridge panels, kind of like Lego links between panels. And we're like, okay, you don't even realize this is a 14 panel page. But yeah, there's we would never intentionally write a page with that many panels. Like, we've never had a script that has ever been like, on panel 14 on page 5 do this. But we'll give our artists freedom sometimes to, if they feel like they need to create extra panels than what we have in the script, or vice versa. Hey, you guys have 6 panels here. It feels like 5 would be better on this page. We'll give them the opportunity, if they understand what's going on, to have that dialogue with us, because we don't think we know everything either. And a lot of times their input is just as important if they're feeling and vibing the story like we are.
Yeah, I feel like 9 panels, doing Watchmen is, of course, the
and all of that.
Oh, yeah.
the be all, but doing a story in solely in 9-panel grids. I mean, Keith Giffen was doing that like in the Legion, right? I think back in the late 80s, late 80s. I mean, to have that kind of form thrust upon you and then working within it, I think that would be kind of a fun challenge. But I don't know. I've never tried just a 9-panel grid page or story.
Yeah.
I've never done it like Watchmen, where the point was to do 9-panel grids or Mr. Miracle as the base. I've never done that, but there are times where it feels like 3, 3, and 3 gets a lot of territory covered. In a way, my mind works where 6-panel grid and 9-panel grid are the base, and then I vary from there based on what I think the page needs. But I was looking up, that's why I got on Instagram, and then music came up, so I apologize for that. Garth the Geek does Witch Creek Road, which is a horror comic that I really recommend everybody check out. I think you can see it on one of the free comic apps, Tapas, maybe, I'm not sure. He does like 20-panel pages, and they work.
Wow.
Yeah, but they work.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how they work, but they just work. So it's like if you're a good enough writer with a good enough artist, you can do it. I don't recommend it. That 5 to 7 is really where we should be doing, so that our artists don't, put out contract hits on us. Yeah.
And I think, Kevin, what you said earlier too about having the letterer, like, I think that's another place where a good letterer really helps is being able to kind of break up. So, because I'm the same as you, I do it by feel. I don't have necessarily like a word count or a sentence count, but I try to do like an idea in a word balloon. But having a letterer that kind of understands, hey, if we move some of this to the next panel, or just a different way of doing it, it can take what you said and maybe you jumbled and make it more clear. I know I've had a couple times it's come back where he's, suggested breaking things up a certain way, or moving something either to the next panel or even the next page as kind of a, a cliffhanger. And it's been what I've been trying to get across so much. And that's, I think, again, you said hiring a letter is something that a lot of people, maybe try to save money on, but they can make such a big difference. And that's another one where I think they can make something wordy and make it seem like it flows better. Maybe make it seem like it's not quite as wordy as what you actually wrote, just because if it's broken up properly, it makes more sense.
Yeah, I think you should hire an editor, and I think you should hire a letterer, but not in that order.
Yeah.
No offense. No offense, because I think that the value of a letterer shows up faster and more apparently than the value of an editor. But I do think you should have an editor too, even if it's just a writer that you really trust or an artist you really trust. You don't have a specific editor. You should have another eye on your script. You have another eye when the art comes in, because like Will says, I dreamt this and it exists. I'm happy. Yeah. But is it the best it can be?
Yeah, exactly.
And then you have somebody else who's the bad guy. I loved it, but the editor said maybe.
Right.
So, well, all right, guys. I think that unless there's something specific we should talk about, I think maybe we should go through the campaigns that are still live. You guys are welcome to hang with us, but it is 12:26 a.m. on Saturday. I told you it would be a Saturday broadcast, Steph.
I know, right? I guess Matt was right. He was just ahead of himself a little bit there.
Matt's a trendsetter.
I don't even know what day it is at the time. I did. This is the eighth live stream show that I've done in 4 days. I did 3. Was it 3 yesterday? And it was like 5.5 hours of shows in one day, plus everything else was going on. I didn't even know what end was up anymore. So Saturday, Friday, it's one of those days in the week.
I understand and I respect it. We're going to put up the banner for Misfits Clubhouse #1, an all ages fun fantasy adventure. Is that correct?
We like to say the tagline of the campaign says, if Gravity Falls, Wreck-It Ralph, and the Fairly Odd Parents were neighbors on a cul-de-sac, the Misfits Clubhouse will be right next door.
Nice.
So just think about the way, like how you would view those things. I guarantee every single one of us in this room, if one of those shows was on TV, we'd stop and we'd watch it. Doesn't matter if you're 8, doesn't matter if you're 80, you're going to stop. I mean, I don't know what an 80-year-old thinks because I'm not there yet. But you know what I mean? People are going to stop and watch those things and find a way to enjoy it. And that's how we want people to approach Misfits Clubhouse. We had somebody ask today, they're like, is this a kid-friendly book? Because we think kids are going to gravitate. And we're like, it absolutely is kid-friendly. It's just there's nothing inappropriate in there. If you leave it out there on your coffee table, you don't have to worry about if little Johnny's going to turn to page 15 and be like, oh my gosh, Mommy, what's this? We need to have a conversation about this thing that I saw these people doing on the page. None of that stuff. Super fun, super awesome.
And you have 2 days, right? This is
yes. Yeah.
This is so
9,
fully funded, correct?
Yeah, it's fully funded. Obviously, we have goals where we want to get to. I mean, we never want to set the amount to be exactly where we want to be. We set it to exactly like the minimum level that we hope to get to. Yeah. So I mean, obviously, we'd love to be able to get to 100 backers. We'd love to be able to see us get to $4,000 on the campaign. Will we get there? I don't know, but you know what? It's not up to us. It's up to people that want to, talk about it and want to back it to decide if they want to put their invest their time in there. All we know is that if somebody does, we think they're really going to enjoy it and feel like it's money and time well spent.
You know what? We got the Geek Collective. They let us come and talk comics, and they're gonna rally. You're going to get that explain yourself bump where we take credit for all of your hard work for the entire month.
You know what? That's fine with us.
And you're going to do great.
Yeah. The last 48 hours are traditionally, pretty wild on a Kickstarter anyway. So you guys are in great shape.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys. Yeah, we're actually gonna, even though I'm on the West Coast, I'm a little earlier than you guys. We're gonna jump off here. At least I am. And,
you know what? You get your sleep, and we appreciate you coming on with us.
Thanks you guys so much for having us. It was great. It was awesome talking to you guys, and we will see you soon.
Good night.
Bye, guys.
All right, one last hit on Forgotten Hymns before we get into the other stuff.
Forgotten Hymns, issue 1 through 3 is now available on Kickstarter. If you took HBO's Succession and True Detective and Lovecraft Country and put them in a blender and then took whatever that came out of that blender and put it in a comic, that's what you'd get for Forgotten Hymns. So it's Lovecraft horror, it's crime noir, it's thrillers, it's everything that kind of I loved growing up in comic form.
And I do appreciate you sharing the PDF with me so I could read it. It really is. It's meticulous in its plotting in that there is so much going on, and it's all easy to follow. So I'm really
Thank you.
Really excited to see where you go with issue 3, 4, 5, and 6 because
Thank you.
you know, like as a writer, you kind of read things going. I kind of feel like, oh, I know where they're going. Or I have a guess, and I don't have a guess where you're going at all, and that's fun for me. So even though the whole 2 issues makes total sense, I don't know where you're going.
Thank you. I have a really hard time sometimes explaining some of my work because Man of Sin was like that. I like to have very multi-layered narratives, non-linear narratives, and so things are kind of. They make sense when you read. Yes, they make sense when you read it, but like when you like explain it to someone, you're like, that makes no sense at all because there's like 5 different things happening at once. And I really appreciate that, Kevin. I really do because I respect your work and everything as a writer yourself. So thank you.
All right, Territory. Let's do one last thing, and then Will and I are gonna just try to go through the other things, and this is where the
gigantic list
crashes down because it's all on us. But Territory, one last push.
Yeah, definitely. So, obviously the biggest inspiration behind Territory is Godzilla, as far as the kaiju aspect of it. But imagine if it's kind of a Godzilla meets Fallout, kind of meets Horizon Zero Dawn. It's just really fun playing in this world where you've got, a post-apocalyptic world, but it's also very primal. You've got big monsters. You've got, religious philosophy. It's a big monster book, but it's not like most kaiju stories you've read. So if you're a fan of kaiju, or if you're just a fan of kind of the human stories that would go on in a survival type atmosphere, have thoughts about faith and family and stuff like that, I think it's worth checking out. It's been a lot of fun. We're excited to just kind of keep growing. Like I said, we're a young team, and we appreciate all the support we've gotten. The indie community has been amazing, and so we're looking to give back, and we just appreciate all the support so far.
Yeah, indie comics is just filled with some pretty goddamn good people.
Yep. Yes, it's been as somebody who had no connections, no creative experience before this, to come in and have so many people not only willing to support it but help and teach and hey, think about this, look at doing this. Like, it's a great, like you said, if you have that idea, there are people out there that will help you get it done. So don't be scared to take the jump.
One of us.
Happy to be so.
I do have to jump too. My daughter's got an early morning soccer game, so I got to be up there. But I do appreciate being on with everybody. I appreciate the support from all you guys that are on here. I hope that Misfits Clubhouse is going to be able to finish strong the way we want. I hope that every other campaign on here is going to be able to get that massive bump that you guys are guaranteeing.
We guarantee to take credit for it. Yes,
that's the way to do it, man. You know
yes.
what? Take credit for it and make that, spin that narrative, man. That's the part of the fun.
Hey, I look forward to the next con that we're at anywhere near each other, Matt.
We better be. We both live in the same state. We better be at a show here together sometime soon.
It's coming soon. Our numbers are finally sane, so it's coming soon.
All right, guys. Good luck. Thanks a lot. Thanks for having us on. See ya.
Good night, Matt.
Hey, man.
So, Blake and Andrew, you are welcome to hang out and watch how we're going to try to talk about your campaigns in a week and probably butcher them. So,
I'm gonna grab a beer. So
yes, that is probably the best way to do this because I'm a couple shots in. Brian making me drink whiskey. Come on, Brian.
Making you, forcing your hand.
Yeah.
What was that? The Snoop Dogg video? I don't like him. He drank too much. He make me drink.
Yeah.
All right. So Savage Sasquatch is
Just
over.
finished.
It
Yeah.
just finished before we went live. So we're gonna cheer 303 backers, $12,000.
For Wes.
So you can't help Wes on this campaign, but Savage Sasquatch will be back, and you can get the next one. So that
I
one
mean, come on, it's Bigfoot in space.
Yes.
What more do you need?
And I will say, Misfits Clubhouse, you only have 2 days. So even though they were on tonight, definitely look at that campaign.
I've got Duplicant.
Duplicant is still alive? Yes,
Yep.
it is. All right,
We had Carla on the week before last, maybe, or was it last
3
week?
weeks now.
3 weeks ago?
I don't know. It all runs together.
It all runs together. Time has no meaning.
No, it doesn't. Duplicant is extraordinary and dark and scary because it is about a pandemic that creates organ failure in everyone that it hits. One scientist comes up with a brilliant plan to 3D print organs to keep people alive, and the corporation he works for monetizes it. And
in the most horrific way you can think of.
And it is so prescient to the pandemic that I asked Carla if she wrote it during it, and she said no.
It was
She
like
just
6,
looked
8
at
years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Extraordinary sci-fi. It will not make you feel good about yourself or the human race, but it is worth reading. So Duplicant is certainly worth checking out. Blister, Eric Cockrell's punk rock pseudo. It's not really an autobiography, but it's a pseudo autobiography of a punk rocker. Super cool, fun, and we don't usually do this, but we're going to play the card. Eric unfortunately just came positive with COVID, so he doesn't have the strength, the wherewithal to really push this campaign. So please give Blister a look. If it looks at all interesting, give it a back so that Eric can spend his time resting, recuperating, getting healthy for the next Blister, because this is the weird ass time we're in and nobody asked for this. And so I'm not going to say you have to back it, but I am going to say that if it feels fun to you, let's help Eric get a good night's sleep instead of staying up pumping his Kickstarter.
Absolutely. Let's see. The next one I've got here is Sacrifice. I got Lauren.
All right, Blake, do you want to do Sacrifice? Because you can get a free print if you back Territory and Sacrifice.
Yes. So this is Sacrifice 1 and 2 by Laurent Valles, and it's like I said, it's an awesome. It's horror, it's comedy, it's action. He advertises it as Hellboy meets Evil Dead. I'd say that's a pretty good description. The main character is also very Constantine-like, if you're a fan of that.
Yeah.
Really, it's just, it's a super fun book, really well written. The art's awesome. And if you back Sacrifice and you back Territory, you get a cool crossover print. So, a little bonus, but definitely
do it.
Yeah. Regardless, Sacrifice, Lauren is a great writer, really cool guy. And his series I think it's really going to go some cool places. So
nice. That's easy. All we have to do, Will, is get everybody that has
just
a
do it for us
print from people last week, and then it actually goes really nice. Monster Matador. So Kaiju.
Yep.
Blake, you did really good with Sacrifice. You want to make Monster Matador?
Why not? So Monster Matador by I'm gonna start asking you guys to pay me here soon.
Yeah,
No,
you can get 100% of our profits.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, sounds like a fair deal. No, Monster Matador by Stephen Prince. So there's been a couple books. This is actually a big one at 64 pages. kind of a one shot, but in the world. And this is another one that it's a really unique take on the kaiju. Again, there's some comedy, some action, a lot of different stuff going on. The monster designs, the monsters are awesome. The Matador aspect he really plays into, but he really makes it work and makes it a really unique book. And then this one is kind of going for almost a pulp kind of feel, and based off the other ones, if you're a fan of monsters or even just kind of any sort of pulp action type story, adventure type story, classic 50s, 60s type stuff, I don't think you'll want to miss it.
Yeah, and I was a little late on that. Check out that banner. Check out the art, because quite honestly, the art in this comic is extraordinary. And we've had some amazing art, some tonight, but that Monster Matador art is something special. So definitely check it out.
Yeah, and there's a movie poster cover. I just gotta say, because if you're a fan of like the classic movie posters, there's a cover variant on this one that is just perfect. It fits everything about the comic so well, and definitely one to look out for.
Beautiful. And Nightmare Theater, our buddy Clay Adams. This is an anthology horror, and it's all based on cinematic horror. This is their second volume. As I told them when they were on, I read the first story by our buddy James Powell. It scared me. I put the book down. I have not picked it up again. So I don't know if the entire thing is that scary, but James Powell scared the shit out of me. And so it's a good horror anthology as far as I know, because I knew which story to put first.
Yep, absolutely. And actually, I have a story in this one with Mick Byers, and it turned out pretty well. It's
nice,
lots of fun.
As an alum from the volume 1, everyone should get it. The anthology is absolutely amazing. Not only all the different creators and all the different stories, but just how it's presented. They do a really, really nice job. I was really bummed I wasn't able to contribute to this one, but
was it your intense dislike of Clay Adams?
Yeah,
it was. I had
Nightmare
such a
Theater
horrible
buddies.
time.
Activate. There we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
Clay's so goddamn likable and good looking and charming that I've got to just like shiv him every chance I can take.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the second child kind of got in the way of that. So, I had to cut some corners. So
you had a choice.
You
had a choice: second child or the second volume of Nightmare Theater. I think you chose wisely.
I think he did too.
I'm just going to leave
that. Here's the deal: we're going to put this on the internet. In 18 years, your second child might listen to this. I definitely say, fucking leave it.
Yeah,
just leaving it.
Just leave it.
It's a great choice.
You know what? You would have a Camaro at graduation if I was in that goddamn anthology. You're driving a goddamn Toyota Camry.
A Prius. You're driving a Prius because I wasn't in that.
I'm driving the Prius.
Did we hit Will? Did we hit him? I think we hit him.
I think we hit them all.
If we forgot any, I apologize. But we have Slice of Life coming up with Kat and Phil. Next week we have my buddy Jason Ford for LIF, LIF, and his @Thunderduck on Twitter. Great dude. And I think we're gonna have Powerless, who's not doing a Kickstarter. They're doing a Store Envy campaign. So it'll be interesting to talk about Powerless next week. Everybody who joined us, but specifically Blake and Andrew, because you're still here. Thank you. You made our Friday night, Saturday morning a blast, and we really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for having. Yeah. Thanks for having us.
All right.
Yeah,
Good night.
Thank you
Everybody,
so much.
Anytime. Let us know when you've got a campaign, and we'll be happy to talk about it.
And take credit for it.
And take credit for all of your success.
Exactly.
Yes.
Bye.